I didn't mean to stare at her hands. But when she leaned over the counter, the light caught the faint lines near her knuckles. And for some reason, I couldn't look away. They weren't the hands of someone my age. Steadier, practiced, but they trembled slightly as she adjusted the loose screw on her mailbox. "You're good with tools?" I asked, half just to hear her answer, half to cover the way my chest tightened. She smirked without looking at me. "Not really. Just pretending I am until the screw falls out again." I laughed, but she didn't. Instead, she exhaled slowly, like she was already tired of this little chore, tired of something bigger, the kind of tired you carry in your shoulders. That's when she glanced at me, really looked, and in that instant, the sound of the street seemed to fade. She was at least 20 years older than me. I should have stepped back, should have stopped letting the silence between us stretch too long, but she didn't look away. "You're hard to ignore," she said softly. Her voice edged with something between warning and confession. My throat dried. "And you don't want to," I answered before I could think. Her lips parted just slightly, then pressed shut again. She returned to the screw, twisting it tighter than it needed to be. The street around us was ordinary. Parked cars, the distant hum of a bus, the smell of rain on asphalt. But none of it felt ordinary anymore. She straightened, brushing her palms against her jeans, and gave a little laugh that didn't quite sound like laughter. "This is ridiculous. I shouldn't be doing this. Neither should I." My voice cracked halfway through the words, but I didn't take them back. For a moment, neither of us moved. She crossed her arms, not in defense but like she was holding herself together. I shoved my hands in my pockets, fighting the urge to reach out, to test if the warmth I felt between us was real or just in my head. "You don't even know me," she said finally, shaking her head. But she didn't step away. "I know enough," I said. "You don't look at everyone like that." Her eyes narrowed, like I'd struck too close. "Like what?" I swallowed. "Like you're afraid of being seen, but you can't help it." The words hung there, reckless and naked. Her silence pressed in on me, heavier than anything I'd carried before. Then, quietly, almost like she was talking to herself, she said, "You're younger than you realize. Too young to say things like that." I almost laughed, but the ache in my chest kept me still. Maybe, or maybe I just mean them more than most. She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped past me, her shoulder brushing mine. Deliberate, accidental, I couldn't tell. I froze, skin burning where we touched. Her perfume lingered in the air. Subtle, nothing like the sugary scents girls my age wore. This was different. It was sharper, deeper, the kind that stays in your clothes long after the person's gone. I turned, watching her walk toward her door. Halfway there, she paused, looked back at me, and then she smiled, not wide, not careless, but small, restrained, as if she hated herself for letting it slip. The kind of smile that ruins the rest of your night because you can't stop replaying it. I told myself I'd forget about her smile. Pretend it was nothing, just a neighborly gesture after I helped with her mailbox. But when she opened her door again that evening, carrying a box half her size, I knew I wouldn't. "Need help?" I asked too quickly. She hesitated. "It's fine, I've got it." Her arms strained, and the box wobbled. I stepped forward anyway, brushing her hand as I caught the other side. She flinched at the contact, then let go with a sigh that sounded more like surrender than relief. Inside her apartment, the air was warmer, faintly scented with coffee that had gone cold. Books stacked unevenly on the shelves, a blanket tossed on the couch. Everything carried the quiet chaos of someone who lived alone for too long. "Just there," she said, pointing to the floor. I set the box down gently, waiting for her to say something else. Instead, she rubbed the back of her neck. "It's my ex's things. I've been meaning to get rid of them." I froze. That one word, ex, filled the room heavier than the box had. She caught my expression and gave a short laugh. Don't look so serious. It's not a tragedy. Just overdue. But her eyes didn't match the laugh. They lingered on the box as if it carried more than clothes or books. You shouldn't have to carry that alone, I said before thinking. Her head snapped toward me, a flicker of something sharp in her gaze. And why would you want to? The question caught me off guard. I shrugged, trying to look casual, but my voice betrayed me. Because I don't like the idea of you doing everything by yourself. Her lips pressed tight. She turned toward the window, the late light washing over her face. From this angle, I could see the faint lines around her eyes, the weariness she couldn't hide. I shouldn't have been staring, but I couldn't help it. The way she carried herself, strong but fractured at the edges, pulled at something in me I didn't have words for. Careful, she said finally, her tone quieter now. You don't know what you're getting pulled into. I laughed under my breath. Maybe I already do. That broke her stillness. She faced me again, searching my expression, as if waiting for me to flinch. But I didn't. For a long moment, the room was too quiet. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the faint tick of a clock I couldn't see. My chest ached with everything I wasn't saying. Then she stepped closer, close enough that I could see the faint tremor in her hand before she steadied it against my arm. Stay a little longer, she whispered. I should have left when she asked me to stay. I should have said I was tired, made an excuse, walked back to my place before this turned into something I couldn't undo. But I didn't. Instead, I sank into the armchair across from her couch, my knees brushing the edge of the coffee table stacked with unopened mail and half-read books. She curled into the far end of the couch, pulling the blanket across her lap, like she suddenly remembered we weren't supposed to be this close. For a while, neither of us spoke. She fiddled with the loose thread on the blanket. I traced the rim of a chipped mug on the table. The silence wasn't awkward, it was worse. It was loaded. You shouldn't be here, she said finally, almost to herself. I know. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. But I don't want to leave. Her eyes flicked up, sharp but unsure. She parted her lips like she wanted to argue, then pressed them shut again. The weight of everything unsaid hung between us, heavy, unrelenting. She sighed, ran a hand through her hair, and let it fall messily around her face. You're too young to know what this means. I almost laughed, but the sound died in my chest. I'm not as young as you think. Her gaze lingered on me, long enough that I felt my pulse quicken. My hands twitched against my knees, itching to bridge the space between us. I stopped myself, barely, and then, without warning, her phone rang. The shrill sound shattered the fragile quiet. She jumped, fumbling for the device buried under the blanket. She stared at the screen, jaw tightening, then flipped it face down without answering. Your ex? I asked before I could stop myself. Her eyes cut to me, sharp, defensive. Then softer, she muttered. He doesn't know when to let go. I nodded, but something twisted inside me. An ugly, unfamiliar heat. I hated the thought of anyone else pulling her attention away, even if she clearly didn't want it. The silence returned, heavier this time. She leaned back into the couch, closing her eyes for a moment, as though the ringing still echoed in her head. I told myself to stand, to break the spell. Instead, I said quietly, he doesn't deserve to call you at all. Her eyes opened slowly, fixing on me. Something flickered there, surprise, conflict, maybe even relief. You talk like you know me, she whispered. I want to, I said. The words slipped out, unplanned, but I didn't take them back. Her breath caught, and for one dizzying moment, she shifted closer on the couch. Not much, just inches, but it was enough. Enough to feel the warmth of her body, enough to blur the line we hadn't yet crossed. I held my breath, waiting, afraid that even a word might break it. The air between us felt sharp, like even breathing might cut it. She hadn't moved away and I hadn't either. Inches separated us. But it might as well have been nothing. Her hand twitched against the blanket, then stilled. I couldn't tell if she wanted to push me back or pull me closer. "This isn't fair," she said suddenly, her voice low, almost breaking. "Fair?" My throat was tight. "What's not fair?" She turned toward me, eyes blazing with something I couldn't read. "You sitting here, looking at me like you know me. You don't. You don't know the mess I've made. You don't know what it means to let someone down." Her words struck deep. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I understood more than she thought. But instead, I just said, "Then show me." She blinked, thrown off. "Show you what?" "Who you are when you're not holding everything together." My voice was steadier than I felt. "I don't care about the mess. I don't want you to hide from me." Her lips parted, then closed again. For a heartbeat, she looked almost younger, stripped of the guarded strength she wore like armor. "You don't understand what you're asking," she whispered. "Maybe not," I admitted. "But I'd rather know the truth than watch you pretend." She stared at me, unblinking, her chest rising and falling too quickly. And then she laughed. Not out of humor, but something raw, broken. She pressed a hand over her mouth, shaking her head. "You're too much," she muttered. "Do you even hear yourself?" "Yes," I said, leaning forward, my voice barely above a breath. "And I mean every word." Her hand slipped from her mouth, resting on her lap. I couldn't stop myself. I reached out, covering it with mine. The warmth of her skin jolted through me like I'd crossed a forbidden line, even though it was just our hands. She didn't pull away. Instead, she whispered, "I ruined it before. Everything. Everyone. I can't ruin you too." The honesty in her voice made my chest ache. I squeezed her hand gently. "You won't." Her eyes searched mine, desperate, doubtful. "And what if I do?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. The silence stretched, loud with all the things we weren't saying. And then she asked, barely audible, "What are we doing?" Her question hung in the room like a live wire, crackling, dangerous. Neither of us dared move. The clock ticked in the kitchen. The world outside went on. But here everything had stopped. Her question still lingered, "What are we doing?" When the knock at the door shattered it. She froze. I pulled my hand back as if caught doing something wrong. Another knock, louder this time. "Are you expecting someone?" I whispered. Her face went pale. "No," she stood, smoothing her hair quickly, her movements sharp and nervous. When she cracked the door open, a voice spilled into the apartment. "Still ignoring my calls?" It was a man's voice, firm, angry. My pulse spiked. I couldn't see him from where I sat, but I saw the way her shoulders stiffened, the way she blocked the doorway with her body. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice flat. "I came for my things," he snapped, "and to make sure you weren't." His eyes must have landed on me then, because his tone shifted, cold and cutting. "Well, that explains a lot." She tried to close the door, but he laughed under his breath. "Unbelievable. A kid." My jaw clenched. I stood before I even thought about it, the heat in my chest threatening to spill out. But she threw me a sharp glance. "Don't." After a tense pause, he muttered something bitter and finally left, his footsteps fading down the hall. She shut the door quickly, leaning against it, her hands trembling. I stepped closer, my voice low. "Does he always just show up?" She shook her head. "Not always. Just when he wants to remind me I don't get to move on without him." The rawness in her voice cut deeper than his words ever could. "You don't owe him that," I said. Her laugh was hollow. "Don't I? Years wasted. Promises broken. I gave him the best of me, and this," she gestured vaguely toward me, toward us, "is what he thinks I've fallen to. That's not fair." I shot back, the words tumbling out faster than I could control. "He doesn't get to decide who you are now. And if he can't see—" I stopped, breath catching. She looked at me, waiting. I swallowed hard, the truth clawing at my throat. If he can't see how incredible you are, then maybe he never deserved you in the first place. Her lips parted, but no words came. She stared at me like she was seeing me differently, or maybe like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. I wanted to pull the words back, but I couldn't. They were out now, hanging in the charged air between us. And then she said, barely above a whisper, "You sound just like him." The floor dropped beneath me. "Like him," I repeated, stunned. She nodded slowly, eyes glassy. "When we first met, he said almost the same thing. And I believed him. I believed everything." The silence that followed was unbearable, crushing. And in it, I realized the danger wasn't just in wanting her. The danger was in becoming another wound she couldn't afford. Her words hung in the air like a blade. "You sound just like him." Couldn't breathe. My chest tightened, shame rushing up my throat. I wanted to argue, to prove her wrong, but all that came out was silence. She rubbed her temples, pacing the room. "You don't understand. I've heard those promises before. I've let myself believe them. And every time it ends the same way. Me picking up pieces no one else wants to touch." I swallowed hard. "I'm not him." Her head snapped up, eyes sharp. "Then stop saying things you can't possibly mean." The words stung. My fists tightened at my sides. But when I met her eyes, I saw it. The fear, the exhaustion, the regret etched into her face. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to protect herself. So I stepped closer, careful, deliberate. My voice shook, but I didn't hold back. "Then let me say something I can mean. I don't know how this ends. I don't know if I'll ruin it, or if you'll regret it, or if tomorrow you'll decide this never should have happened. But right now," my voice broke. "Right now, I just know I can't pretend I don't want to be here." Her breath caught. She froze, watching me like she was waiting for me to falter. But I didn't. Slowly, she lowered her arms. The hardness in her face cracked, and for the first time tonight, she looked unbearably tired. Vulnerable. Human. "You shouldn't want this," she whispered. "Maybe not," I said. "But I do." For a moment, nothing moved. The clock ticked in the kitchen. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. Then, finally, she let out a shaky laugh. Not bitter this time, just small, almost disbelieving. "You're impossible," she said. "Maybe." I smiled faintly. "But you're still not asking me to leave." That broke something between us. She dropped onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. I sat beside her, close enough to feel the warmth of her shoulder. "You don't know what you're getting into," she murmured through her fingers. "Then let me find out." Her hands fell away, and her eyes met mine. Wet, searching, unsure. I could see the war inside her, the pull between fear and longing. And maybe for the first time, I saw her clearly. Not the strong, guarded woman who kept everyone at arm's length, but someone who just wanted to be believed without being broken. I reached out, my fingers brushing hers. This time, she didn't pull away. Instead, she whispered, "If you stay, don't make me regret it." "I won't," I said. And for once, I felt the truth of it all the way through me. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy, certain, alive. I stayed. Not just that night, though it started there. I stayed when her doubts rose like walls, when she tested me with silence, when the shadows of her past crept back into the room. I stayed through the pauses, the sharp edges, the unspoken fears. And little by little, she stopped waiting for me to leave. It didn't happen in one grand gesture. No perfect kiss under the rain, no dramatic declarations. It was quieter than that. The coffee she poured me without asking. The way she let me carry the groceries without brushing me off. A text in the middle of the day that simply said, "Still here?" She never said the words, not directly. But she didn't have to. I saw it in the way her shoulders softened when I walked in. How her laugh, rare at first, grew easier, warmer. For her, it wasn't about passion or risk anymore. It was about trust. And for me, it wasn't about proving I wasn't too young, or that I was different from him. It was about showing up, again and again, until she believed it. One night, weeks later, we sat on her couch, the same spot where everything almost broke apart. The same silence stretched between us, but this time it felt different. Safe. She turned to me, her eyes steady, no longer guarded. "You're still here," she said softly, almost like she couldn't believe it. I smiled. "I told you I would be." And in that moment, I knew the line we were so afraid of crossing wasn't a line at all. It was a beginning. The truth is, she'll always carry her regrets. And I'll always carry the weight of being younger, of people wondering, judging. But in the quiet of her apartment, none of that matters. What matters is this. She let herself be seen again. And I got to be the one who didn't look away. Maybe love isn't about finding someone perfect, or timing it just right. Maybe it's about staying when every reason tells you not to. About choosing each other, flaws and all, and saying, "I'm not leaving." That's what changed. That's what made it real. So yes, I shouldn't have been there that night, and she shouldn't have let me in. But if we hadn't, we would have missed this. And I'd rather face every risk than live with that regret. Because when she looks at me now, it isn't with fear or doubt or guarded silence. It's with a smile that says, "You stayed." And that's enough.